Hello everybody, Medi here. Before I start exploring Gen 3 hacks, I wanted to take a look back at some of the amazing gimmicks and mechanics of some of the ROM hacks I reviewed. For this video, I'll be looking specifically at 5 Generation 1 hack mechanics that completely blew my mind. Mechanics that really stood out to me, and just made the overall experience even better. However, I did only choose one mechanic per hack, mostly because I wanted to try to give more hacks some representation, since some of the hacks have a lot of great mechanics and ideas that would probably take up most of the list itself. Trust me. Real quick before I start, I wanted to thank Arrogance Claws who brought up the idea for such a video. And I know some people might think that the idea to make sort of a list ranking such things would be a no-brainer, but when you're busy constantly playing hack after hack and finding more hacks to go over, such an idea doesn't really cross your mind. So, thank you again, Arrogance Claws. Now, onto the list. While in most Pokemon games and hacks, your rival will tend to stick to each Pokemon they catch along the way and not really change anything up. With the only exception to this being Hop in Pokemon Sword and Shield, but that only happened once before he went right back to his original team. Pokemon Red Proud Eyes versions decides to go against that staple and make the rival feature a new team with each encounter, with the only constant being their starter. What I really like about this change is that it makes the rival a lot more interesting. Rather than being the same old fights everyone knows like the back of their hand, it really helps each fight with him be a lot more engaging, as you will have to change up your strategy with each encounter, since you can no longer expect most of his team to be the same. Preventing players from just autopiloting through each fight, steamrolling his team with the same old game plan as before. Another thing I like about this gimmick is that it plays into the fact that your rival in RGB constantly brags about the amount of Pokemon he's caught. And while I can assume that those not on his team are just chilling in his PC, it would be really neat for him to truly show off his collection when you fight him, leading him to create his perfect team when you fight him as a champion. Despite this ever-changing team of Pokemon though, the rival tends to still be a pushover, and the element of surprise can only work so many times. While I am now well aware that a good portion of the Star Beast and Star Beast Asteroid version are from the bootleg games Xin Kong Jing Shou and Shu Hun Xin Shou, I still love that Star Valor and the Star Beast team repurposed and edited some of these sprites to create a whole new roster for the original Pokemon Red, giving them proper typings, movesets, and custom back sprites in order for them to work within the Pokemon world, along with creating some of their own Star Beasts to give some of them evolutionary lines, as well as fill in some of the gaps to completely replace the original game's 151. I really loved a good portion of the Star Beasts during my initial playthrough, and how they were translated into the Pokemon world by those who worked on this hack. Some of my favorites will have to include the starters and their evolutions, as well as some of the Ghost Star Beasts the hack features. And while a couple of the Star Beasts did feel very similar to the original game's Pokemon, a lot of them are still very unique in their movesets and typings, as well as some featuring split evolutionary lines, which is a very cool gimmick I wasn't expecting. The sprite works for the new Star Beast is also really good, and matches the Gen 1 style really well, truly showing how much Star Valor and Co. really wanted to make them fit this game and still feel unique. My only issue with the Star Beast though is that some of them feel a bit underwhelming, and just like in the original games, you tend to find yourself avoiding said Star Beasts and not really giving them a chance. At least they still offer up that feeling to learn all about them on your own, or you can just read the notepad the hack is bundled with if you find yourself lost or confused about them. Replacing the series mascot with Cramorant is probably one of the funniest yet best decisions anyone has ever made. Heck, a decision that no one expected to be made. But Cramodev made that decision, and I gotta say I'm glad that they did. While it isn't the first hack to replace Pikachu in Yellow version, or the last, it is one that completely replaces everything related to the Yellow Mouse, and I mean everything. From the basics like the newly created overworld and battle sprites, which look really good by the way, to all the newly added noises Cramorant makes for each interaction, Cramorant made sure to make the silly bird just as expressive as Pikachu was in the original game, which over time made me enjoy traveling around Kanto with the clumsy little guy at my side, and appreciate him more than I did before. Plus he has a better base stat total, making him the stronger Pokemon, so yeah, eat that Pikachu. Also, allowing him to indulge in the surfing minigame is always a treat since he easily learned surf on his own. Thank goodness too, because getting a surfing Pikachu in the original game is such a tedious task that I've only done once, and would rather not do again. I will admit though, that the custom noises for Cramorant can be a bit annoying after hearing it for some time. Then again, the same thing was like that with Pikachu, but that's not the fault of anyone but the limited sound chip of the original game. I guess if you really find yourself agitated by it, then you can just turn the volume down. Then again, just look at this guy and how adorable he is. How could you say no? Fought through the newly added trainers before each gym leader, inverse battles are a new type of battle Extreme Yellow adds that, well, inverts all the type matchups for the entire fight. Moves that would originally be super effective on the type you're currently going against will now be not very effective, and vice versa. This also includes any moves that would have no effect becoming ×4 effective, with the ×4 effective moves doing absolutely no damage. What I enjoy about inverse battles is that they help keep the game a lot more interesting and also prevent battle fatigue, considering throughout the whole hack you'll be doing the same type of battle over and over again. So it's a great way to keep players engaged and alert. It is also a great way to test their knowledge of the type matchups and add a bit of surprise to every gym so they don't go autopiloting using the same Pokemon the entire time. I just wish they had a bit more of a presence in the hack itself. I really enjoyed these battles and they honestly caught me off guard a couple of times, but served as a great wake up call to pay attention to the battle at hand. Then again, I can probably see why they aren't too common, since some people might find these type of battles annoying. I'm sure Rainbow Metal Pigeon will find a happy medium they're satisfied with, but we can only wait and see with future updates. The Field Moose Slot Pokemon Solus adds is probably one of the most interesting methods on making HMs less tedious that I've ever seen. And interesting enough, it's also the only method I've seen within the Generation 1 hacks I reviewed so far. But that could change in due time. Either way, this mechanic is a game changer for real. For those who didn't watch my initial review of Pokemon Solus, here's a quick rundown of this amazing mechanic. The Field Moose Slot is an extra slot where your Pokemon can learn any HM in the game without having to take up any of your actual 4 move slots, meaning that you can't use it in battle, but freely utilize the overworld usage of said move. All Pokemon within your party have access to one Field Move slot, and once you used it, the only way to get it again is to deposit and withdraw the Pokemon on the PC. What I love so much about this new mechanic is how simple and easy it is to use, as well as easy to understand. There are a couple NPCs within a hack that will give you some extra information about it, but you can also just watch the Crescent's video on the hack and he provides a great explanation of how it all works. It's always great to have a method making HMs less cumbersome, since not many people enjoy them. Heck, Game Freak removed them for that very reason. So the Field Moose Slot is a perfect way to mitigate their existence within Gen 1, especially since 2 gyms literally require to use Cut in order to reach them. Either way, the Field Moose Slot is a fantastic mechanic and I'm glad it exists. And there you have it, my list for my 5 favorite mechanics within the Gen 1 hacks I played. And sure, there's a lot more I can talk about, trust me, but I decided to keep this fairly short, since I'm going to be doing this for every generation. So I'd like this to serve more as a small recap, rather than it being a whole big video itself. Maybe in the future these lists will become a lot longer and feature more hack mechanics to talk about, especially since future generations feature a lot more hacks. But for now, I believe this works for the amount of Gen 1 hacks that I've currently reviewed. I might create a longer list in the future once I review more Gen 1 hacks, but as of now, I'll be setting up to make a list for Gen 2 mechanics I adored, which will be a lot longer than this one, considering there's a lot more to go over. Meta out.